Jetzt geht's? Jetzt scheint es zu gehen. Eben voll gar nicht gegangen. Auf Twitch zumindest. Mika, kannst du da bitte weggehen? Halt mal die Schnur. Nee. Miau! Gehen. Nee. Gar nicht wahr. Oh, oh Mann. Brauche ich wieder lesen. Ganz viel lesen. Bäh. Ich mag lesen. Was ist denn? Klappt das alles? Läuft das? Ich weiß es nicht. Ich habe komische Dinge hier vor mir. Also es sagt, ich bin live, aber... Ja gut, jetzt geht's. Okay, es geht. Okay. Okay. Gut. Da. Tada. Spiel. Continue. With a gentle wind drifting... Wind? With a gentle wind drifting through wide open windows, muffled laughers and footsteps fading behind empty hallways, and the light kiss of the afternoon sun. Soon there will be a call, a crossing of thresholds into the unknown. Maybe we are off to some grand adventure or diving into another gripping mystery. One can't really tell. For all I know, a hero might even come sweep me off my feet if I'm lucky.
That's not exactly a bad thing when you think about it.
But this is far from one, isn't it? Ich weiß gar nicht, wo wir stehen geblieben sind. Warum ist dieser Text? Riveting tale that is. The mild breeze, the faint murmurs, the warm rays painting every nook and cranny a fiery hue. They are all as real as they can get. As much as I want to write a little tale out of this, I'm far from someone who can. Fleeting fancies. That's what these are. Merrily passing thoughts to occupy an idle mind, while waiting for another busy workday to end. Then again, maybe in another life I am one. Who knows? But at present, what I have and what I have chosen to be. Well,
I won't last years here if I find teaching rowdy adolescents a tedious job, will I?
Admittedly, the whole affair isn't exactly as grand or exciting as I had imagined as a child. If I weren't so stubborn and too passionate about the whole idea, I probably would have quit a long time ago. But it's always the kids that make me worthwhile, isn't it? Make it worthwhile. As if in agreement. Hallo, kannst du mal bitte unter meinen Beinen weggehen? As soon as my pen slides into the neat circle against the paper, into a neat circle against the paper, I'm grading the final bell rings. Like a dam that has opened, students piling out into the hallways soon after. For a short minute, I let the noise fill my ears, let my mind wander to a place far removed from all the hubbub. Ist das ein Wort? Was ist das für ein Wort? Solitary moments like this have come few and far between lately. Ich verstehe gar nicht, was da steht. Mir kommt es gerade vor, als könnte ich kein Englisch. What the fuck? Ich weiß gar nicht, ich bin so raus aus dem Spiel. Ich weiß gar nicht, worum es geht. Wir sind gerade Bäcker anscheinend. Ja gut. Even my own home hasn't been as quiet as usually I prefer. Though in hindsight, the entire place hasn't been the same either since Isabella moved in next door. And if her fussing over a minor cold last week tells anything, I might as well throw any idea of solitude out the nearest balcony so long as she lives nearby. At the memory, my eyes automatically shift over the bottle sitting at the edge of my desk. A chuckle escapes from me as I reach for it.
A little ball of energy and enthusiasm. That big baby.
Mother hen, she calls me, and then says and does the same thing right after. It's not that I'm unused to being on the receiving end of other people's worries, or I feel any sort of apprehension over her fretting. If I am to be completely honest, it's actually amusing how someone can be childlike one minute, then act like a responsible adult the next. But there's a there is a dissonance. Meine Fresse. Ich will mal Dissonance sagen. Ich glaube nicht, dass es Dissonance heißt. But there's a dissonance there, both in her actions and words. Although she may not look like it, may not say anything, may not lose her cheer one way or another, I know these troubles have weighed down on her lately. Her face says it all, that big numpty. Numpty? Hey! Was soll das? Geh sie mir vor den Augen weg. Ich seh nix. Wir haben deinen Haarabstand. Gehen Sie. If she thinks I won't notice, she's got another thing coming for her. That's how she has always been. I do understand that part loud and clear. It's just that I really rather not pass another burden on to her.
Or become one myself.
Hallo, gehen Sie da weg. Gehen Sie runter vom Tisch, Dankeschön. Aren't I supposed to be the one taking care of them? Though I guess that's simply one of those things people eventually grow away from once you all started leading different leading different lives? Stand das gerade? Wirklich da? Oder stand da living? Und ich habe es einfach nur falsch gelesen. Not completely different, I hope. Doch, ich glaube, leading, ne? Das sind verschiedene Lebensrichtungen. Weiß ich nicht. Somehow, that thought makes me feel uneasy. Thankfully, before stranger ideas can take root in my head, a faint buzzing comes from my back, cutting through the rest of my thoughts. A small a small frown forms in my lips when the screen lights up and an unknown number flashes. For a long second, my thumb hovers over the answer button. Even the voice that responds once I do accept the call is wholly unfamiliar.
Hello?
Oh, goodness. Finally, it connects.
Ach, das ist sie.
Hello? Is this Miss Gales? Rebecca Gales?
Yes, Yes, speaking. Who is this?
Oh, sorry. Rose Cooper, Briar Realty Corporation.
Briar Realty?
My frown deepens as I straighten from my chair. Something in her tone, despite sounding remarkably friendly and light, doesn't sit Entschuldigung, sit quite well with me. The rigid pause that follows doesn't help ease the tension that has suddenly descended either.
Miss Cooper?
Yes. Things are a bit busy on my end. I apologize. I'm not certain if Isabella has mentioned anything before, but we're working together on a property at the moment, and
The Armengard mansion, yes. She said something about that earlier. Is there a problem?
this is about Isabella, actually.
She wastes no time relaying. The details she provided are admittedly a bit vague, but enough for me to get a gist of what happened. It isn't the bad sort of I'm expecting, though still worrying. Especially the words panic attack and pale looking a bit sickly, woven together in one foreboding sentence. But as quickly as it surfaces, I stomp down on the urge to demand answers right there and then. Now isn't the proper time for useless questions. I'll find out soon enough regardless. To Miss Cooper's credit, she neither hesitated nor falters all throughout. Okay. There's some sort of comfort in knowing Isabella has someone like her to guide her. Though not as much as I would have liked. After all, this is Isabella we are talking about. What are the chances she just said a bunch of excuses so she won't get sent home? High. Very high. Oh, she's so going to hear this. To hear it this time.
You were listed as one of her emergency contacts, so I thought it'd be best you know about this.
How is she? Is she doing okay?
I had her take a break for now, but honestly, I'd feel better if someone were to pick her up and take her home for some rest. Anthem's a fair distance from Luxbourne. I really don't want her going off on her own. I'd do it myself, but you know how it is today. Big day. People everywhere until the open house ends. I'm really sorry to ask this of you, Miss Gales. I know you're busy.
Oh, no, it's all good. I was just about to leave from work. I hope to leave early today anyway. A few minutes ahead wouldn't hurt. I can be there in a few, 30, 40 minutes tops. Is that all right?
More than fine, Miss Gales, thank you. We're supposed to be here until... Oh, excuse me. One moment, please. Yes, ma'am.
The faint hum of conversation echoes from her end. It sounds as though the place is buzzing with more people than you'll expect from a regular open house. I was skeptical at first. The house is odd, not to mention its inconvenient location in Luxbourne's outskirts. Who wants to live in a place almost an hour's drive away from the comforts of a city? But from what little I can hear, it appears Isabella has every right to be optimistic about the sale. If I didn't understand why she was so adamant refusing my offer for help before, I think I do now. To some degree.
We'll be resuming the tour soon. Yes, thank you. Sorry about that. I really need to get this thing going. Lord knows how I'll salvage the situation here. It shouldn't be anything complicated, but still, clients. They can be difficult when they want to be. Anyway, just look for me when you get here, alright? I shouldn't be too hard to miss.
No problem. Thanks for letting me know about this. Just make sure Isabella stays put, please. Heaven knows how stubborn that girl can be.
Oh, believe me, I know. Don't worry about it. I'll have a few of our staff keep an eye on her for me until you get here.
That's all I'm asking. I appreciate it.
The whole thing ends on a surprisingly pleasant note. If only the same can be said for the news she brought. I allow a brief minute to pass to ease whatever tension has latched itself firmly to my nerves. But no matter how much I wish for it, my mind stubbornly refuses to do so. My hands are unsteady against the papers I pretend to arrange after. Lucid thoughts, every single ounce of it grimmer than the other, grows with each passing second I linger. Something about this whole thing, along with the sudden unease and nagging worry, screams off. Wrong. This isn't the riveting tale I've hoped to step into today. Even on a rush, getting everything in order before leaving takes nearly a good quarter hour. By the time I make it out of the classroom, the commotion has already died down, dwindling the mere echoes and distant laughers. From the nearby room, melodies from a rehearsing band drifts freely into the air, filling the almost empty hallway with their warm, lively tunes. Any other day, I'll stop, bask in the music, and enjoy what little peace it brings. Not today, however. My steps are brisk and sure as I march to Edward Hall's exit. The sooner I confirm Isabella's okay, the sooner I can shake off this niggling feeling. For one reason or another, that single call, of all possible things, has thrown everything off kilter. I'd rather this be over with as quickly as possible. So much that I nearly barrel over a student in my haste. Though perhaps it's really the other way round. Oh, wie süß. Die kennen wir doch. When I look down, a set of eyes, bright and hopeful, stare back at me. Her arms are wrapped around my waist like a wise, and at my attention, a grin spreads over her face. Riveting. Was für ein Bollerkopf. Hä? Was ist denn dein Problem gerade? Hallo erstmal. Wieso? Ist das falsch? Warum schreibst du das jetzt? Jetzt erst? Das Wort kam schon vor einer halben Stunde. Hör auf, mich zu kritisieren. Ich lese so, wie ich die Wörter lese. Ich kenne die nicht. Ich habe die noch nie gehört. Oder gesehen. Hast du geschrieben, als ich das gelesen habe? Das ist schon 3 Minuten her, hm? Lahmarsch. Halt's Maul. Ich sehe das nicht. Warte. Geht der noch? So, du Lahmarsch. Ich habe mir jetzt den Chat auf den Display gesetzt. Ist das falsch? Heißt es nicht Riveting? Habe ich nicht Riveting gesagt? Hä? Hilf mir! Kläre mich auf. Buenas tardes, okay.
Hello, Kylie. You know, you aren't supposed to run into people like that.
Sorry,
Supposed
Miss
to run in the
Pink.
hallways. She loosens her hold on me, but not a hint of guilt or regret appears on her. Cleo, wenn du mir den ausschaltest, bringe ich dich leider um die Ecke. Kannst du aufhören, das Mikrofon zu boppen? If anything, it seems the remark only amuses her. A smile appears on her face before I can help it, matching the one on her own. Hör auf zu miauen, wenn ich meinen Fuß weghole. Blöd, Mann. Fick dein Kissen und lass mich in Ruhe. Achso, ich habe riveting gesagt, das heißt riveting. Richtig? Das mal. Hey. Und? Also Ei oder was? Hatte ich Riveting gesagt? Oh, ich dachte, ich hätte Riveting gesagt. Aber Riveting ist richtig. Oder Riveting. Riveting, okay. Ich war mir nicht sicher.
Just remember not to do it again, alright?
You sound like my mama when she's scolding Rowan, Miss Pink.
I'm sure your mama only means well. I know she'll be worried sick if one of you were to get hurt. Where's your brother anyway? Aren't you two supposed to be heading home now?
Rowan said he's got some stuff he needs to do before we go. I think he's taking too long. But he promised to buy me jelly babies today if I keep what he's doing a secret from Mama and Papa.
Ja, okay, mach das.
Any
Was
chance
gibt's
you'll
Feines?
tell Miss Pink about it?
She shakes her head. Both her hands going to her mouth as if to keep a precious secret from spilling out.
I made a promise. He said it's for Tia Luke.
Wäre schön, wenn dann der Charakter auch die Hand vor den Mund nimmt und nicht redet, als hätte sie eine Hand vorm Mund und sie nicht vorm Mund hat.
Oh, something like a gift?
Like a deal. Tio promised to take him somewhere cool when he's old enough. Rowan's gonna prove he's a grown-up.
Laughter slips free from my lips. Laughter. Das T sagt man in dem Moment, oder? The teacher in me wants to give whoever is Tio, whoever this Tio is, a reprimand for bringing about this kind of behavior in children. But if both kids are so fond of him, there shouldn't be anything to worry about, yes? At any rate, there's nothing but well-behaved. Both Kylie and her, they are nothing but well-behaved. Both Kylie and her brother, meine Fresse. Rowan, the eldest, may have an occasional odd streak in and out of class, but their parents taught them well. I see no reason to cast any suspicion of bad behavior on on
As
them.
long as it isn't anything dangerous, all right?
It's not. Cross my heart. My drawings are a lot prettier than what he's doing anyway. Tio said so. Do you want to see? I drew one earlier at class.
Is that why you're here?
Not really. I was gonna show it to my friend first. But since it's you, I'm sure she wouldn't mind if you see it before she does.
Oh, oh no. I can't stay right now, Kylie.
Her face falls immediately after the words are out. A small part of me feels responsible for that crestfallen look. But as much as I want to stay a little longer, there's another place I need to be at right now. Meine Fresse. And frankly, another child to look after. Taking both of her hands, I kneel in front of her and muster the most rueful smile I can give. At her age, I'm quite sure she already understands what I'm about to say before they are even out. But remarkably, she doesn't look away or pout as I'm expecting her to.
You know what? Rowan has a class with me on Monday around this time. Why don't you drop by again next week? After class? I'll even make sure to wait for you. It's just that I absolutely must leave now. My friend had an accident earlier, and I'm the only one she has here.
What about her mama and papa?
Her family lives really far from here, I'm afraid. Do you remember where Asia is? The southeast part? That's where they are.
Her eyes immediately light up at my question. Just like that, I know I've earned the girl's forgiveness.
Oh, just like Takako.
Who?
My friend. She said she used to live there, only just a little higher than southeast. But she hasn't come home in a long time, so she doesn't remember much about it anymore. Melody says it's weird I talked to her, but I think she's just shy. They could be good friends too! Don't you think so, Miss Pink?
Das ist ein Geist.
Maybe if you introduce them properly, they will be.
That's what I think. Takako's just lonely. If she makes more friends, she
Oder es
won't
ist ein
be
Mädchen,
alone.
das einfach weird ist in anderer Leute Augen. Ich möchte gerne meinen Fuß abstellen. Kann ich das tun, ohne dich zu treten? Wo bist du? Okay. Nicht unter meinem Stuhl. Gut, das ist gut.
Is your friend like that too?
A little, possibly. To be honest, sometimes I can't tell with her.
After all, Isabella has always been the kind to hold a smile, even when things have taken a turn for the worse. 5 years and one will think it's enough time to know a person. But when you come to think of it, all these years I've never, not even once, seen her cry. Not over a trivial matter or even when things are tough.
Okay, you can go to her. I'll just show you my drawing next time.
Thank you. Remind me to buy you a huge glass of parfait, all right?
No, I'll get a stomachache. Takako says so. A small one is okay.
I'll remember that. Say hi to your friend for me.
I will. I'm sure she'd love to meet you too. See you, Miss Pink.
I'll see you later, Kylie.
London Bridge is falling.
She doesn't look back or wait for any sort of goodbye from me. With a song and an extra string on her step, she bounds across the corridor with as much spirit only a child her age can have. As if the conversation has never taken any downhill turn for her at all. As if there isn't a single thing to worry about in the world. Not long after, she disappears behind a door, leaving behind strains of an old familiar rhyme lingering in the air. Carefree, unbidden, untroubled moments like this, I envy her. And as I resume my hurried pace, a tiny whisper at the back of my mind wishes the same can be said of myself and my own worries. Luxburn may be a small city, but it's no stranger to hellish rush hour traffic. But surprisingly, getting out of the city today proves more of a breeze, ist ein B, kein P, than a hassle. A relief considering how none of my calls to Isabella have made it through. Either the reception's really bad over there or she's ignoring them on purpose. Both does nothing to ease my disquiet in me. Die disquiet, nicht my. The rest of my drive passes without much incident as soon as I'm out the busy street. In less than 30 minutes, the mansion looms ahead for me. Voilà. For all the fuss Isabella made about the house, it remains a thing of beauty. Unlike Luxburn, the estate and the nearby Anselm village stand as its complete opposite, living and breathing the songs of the old, whispers of a once booming having lingering in the air. Contemporary conveniences aside, it's a place I'm glad modernization hasn't wholly touched.
It's just a shame the locals know more of the silly hearsay than the history itself. If I could only knock some sense into these people.
Sadly, complaining is all I can afford to do. As much as I want to give them a piece of my mind, it isn't why I'm here. I don't think these rich types will appreciate getting a lecture from me either. I have as much business with them as they have with me. With a heavy sigh, I give myself one last second to take in the scenery before heading up to the main entrance. Most of the guests are already heading out, though some still linger. It's mainly just to take photos of the house's facade or its various rooms. I pause for a moment, scanning the small crowd gathering at the foyer, looking for any sign of that familiar ponytail among the sea of heads and heads.
No sign of...
Oopsie. No sign of the other staff or Miss Cooper either. I can certainly look for Isabella on my own, but in a place like place this big, I'd be lucky if I didn't end up lost or find her before we need to meet with Zachary and Ash tonight. Meine Fresse, kann nicht mehr lesen. Es fängt schon an, meine Augen. Uff. Sighing, I reach for my mobile and redial her number. The gesture familiar now after so many attempts earlier. If she doesn't answer, I can still try contacting Miss Cooper. I just hope the network reception will cooperate with this time. This side of the country has never been popular with the tech-savvy after all. Aber wie kann die denn mit Frau Cooper reden, wenn die eine private Nummer hatte? Du kannst ja keine private Nummer zurückrufen. To my relief, it only took 3 unsuccessful tries. At the 4th one, right as it's about to switch to another intercept message, the line finally rings. Silence follows while I wait for her to pick up. The ringing going far too long for my taste. By now, most of the visitors have already cleared out. All I have for company are the faint murmurs and an eerie calmness left in their wake. Mal, meine Fresse, der haut mir da dauernd seine Pfoten auf den Fuß. A sudden hush settles and gives way to noises louder than their ever meant to be. Doors creaking and slamming shut in some distant part of the mansion, floorboards groaning under the sheer weight of the house's history. In the now empty hall, they all Fuck. Reverberate with special clarity against the walls. Like this, those old stories seem to almost have a ring of truth to it. I don't get to stray far into the ugly line of thought, however. Not a second later, a click sounds from the other end.
Hello? Isabella? Miss Cooper called earlier and... Isabella? Belle? Are you alright?
Without any warning, the call gets cut off. Busy notes blare sharply against the heavy silence, but above the noise cutting through the mute air remains the faint cries of a woman. From beyond the foyer. My hand falls to my side as I cast a wary look around, waiting. Is it wary or vary? Waiting for someone to come running. Surely I can't be the only one here hearing this. There must still be some staff hanging around, checking things out, but no one does. Not even when her sobs turn more frantic and anguished.
Excuse me? Hello? Who's there? Isabella? Isabella? Is that you?
No answer. Growing anxious, I amble over where her cries come from, each step slow and cautious, towards the door on the other end of the room. While I'm far from someone who readily gives into fear or stories lacking factual basis, the vague, restless feeling I have earlier immediately returns to me. Is this still English? Weiß ich nicht. And despite myself, my heart begins to race and my breathing quickens.
Belle? Belle, it's me. Miss Cooper called. Is everything okay?
Abruptly, all of it stops. My whole body tenses, mouth dragging in erect breath, ears straining for any other sound yet to come from the other side. But nothing follows. Instead, the quiet only lends itself to the heavy tensions in the air, as if every small movement will disturb the fragile stillness hanging in the room. I wait for another second. Then, with a caution, I reach for the knob. My fingers barely graze the brass handle when a hand falls on my shoulder.
Excuse me, ma'am? Oh, I am so sorry. I didn't mean to startle you.
No, it's...
Still reeling, my gaze shifts back to the door as if any second now the cries will start again and whoever's inside will burst out of the room. But I don't get to dwell on these. The woman's worried voice breaks through the haze in my mind again, oddly soothing in the thick of my unease. Even if the concerned look comes from a total stranger, finally being in the company of someone else is somehow comforting.
Ma'am? Are you okay?
Oh, no, I'm fine. This is probably just some cold.
Do you need to sit down?
No need. I'm actually looking for a friend.
I wave the mobile in front of her like the gesture alone explains everything. Vaguely, I note my tight grip on it and quickly slip it into my pocket before she notices. She doesn't need to know.
Well, I'm not really sure if your friend would still be here. We're actually about to close the open house in a few minutes, ma'am.
No worries. She's not a guest here. She works for Briar Realty. Miss Cooper called me earlier. In fact, I'm also looking for her.
Recognition flashes in her eyes and her worried expression dissolves into a smile at once. It's all I need to know that I don't have to look elsewhere or venture deeper into the mansion on my own. In some way, I'm not too keen on the letter right now.
Oh,
Letter?
Miss Rebecca Gales, is it?
Yes. Sorry if I'm a bit late.
It's not a problem. I was busy with the open house and a few clients anyway. It's actually a good thing you came when you did. Let's see. Isabella should be here somewhere. I told her to stay put
Hört sich so
earlier.
dumpf an.
That girl never listens. Rose? Rosie? May I have a minute? There's just this one little thing before we go.
Miss Cooper's head immediately snaps up at the voice. In a blink, a different kind of smile spreads on her face. A smile still friendly even, but the kind given mainly for the sake of pleasing other people rather than making friends.
Yes, ma'am. I'll be there in a few.
It's an impressive thing, to say the least. That level of professionalism, meine Fresse. I suppose working years in this kind of business trains you enough to be able to pull that off without batting an eye. It certainly didn't seem to have rubbed off on Isabella though.
Sorry, could you give me a second? I have to take care of this.
Don't worry about it. I understand. I can wait a few more minutes. Clients, right?
You won't hear anything from me. Priorities, you know? But if you want, you can stay at the parlor in the meantime. I think we have a few refreshments left.
No, thank you. I'm going out with a few friends after this. Isabella's supposed to join us too. But that depends on how she's doing, of course.
Alright, this won't be long, I promise.
She throws me an apologetic look before sauntering over the small group gathered at the entrance. A couple or siblings? And another woman, probably their secretary. Either way, they look no different from the other guests. All three of them primly dressed, albeit in a manner significantly simpler than the others. No frills, no extravagance and of any form. But their gestures and movements alone speak volumes of their ingrained lifestyle. In their presence, I do what I can to appear inconspicuous on my side of the foyer. Maybe accepting Miss Cooper's offer would have been a much better choice than standing around awkwardly and gaping at them. All while also attempting my best not to listen in on their conversation. Although that one proves more difficult with how enthusiastic the blonde woman is. Her voice easily echoes through the walls with only the five of us here. Pretty soon, I find myself being drawn into their talk without meaning to.
Tomorrow? First thing in the morning? First thing in the morning, ma'am.
The mundane The mundane talk isn't what catches my attention,
Very
however.
well. We'll have our lawyers prepare everything as soon as possible. Let's make this whole thing easier for everyone, shall we? Just let me know if there's anything you need from me. You know how to contact me, yes? Got your mobile number saved here already. Good. It's just a matter of time then.
It's a brief moment. A fleeting shift of my eye.
Day for us, Marianne.
As long as you're positive, we won't be having any problems by that time. You can count on my team.
You worry too much. Let me handle those things. Do be thrilled, though. I imagine it's not every day you get projects like this, hmm?
And the instant I turn my gaze on him, I see it.
Oh, I'm certain Mint's ecstatic, Buttercup. Aren't you, Marianne? You know, we could all celebrate this with a few drinks. Why don't we? In fact, there's this really excellent Irish pub I visited a few days ago.
Looming, hovering over his shoulders, drawn to him like a moth to a flame, a dark blur. No, a shadow.
I think I'll pass on that, sir. I have
Warum
more
ist
important matters to attend to.
Warum ist sie so dumpf auf einmal?
Love, she's busy.
Faden wir gerade? But as I try to make sense of it, a heavy feeling descends over my whole body. It happens without warning, forcing me to close my eyes. The sensation creeps to every part of me, crawling under my skin and draining me little by little of any strength. Before I know it, my hand is gripping the nearby door for support. The sudden nausea drowns out their voices and what little sound there is, all except for the whispers and laughters. Judging, mocking, taunting, muffled, inaudible words bearing down on me like a death sentence. They wrap around my neck and limbs, binds tightening with every syllable, every utterance, and with each draw of breath I take, they drag me down slowly, almost painfully, into a bottomless abyss. On, and on, and on, till the sounds turn into mere distant echoes, until suddenly it shatters.
Well, what are we waiting for? Are we done here?
His voice rips through the fog like a sharp blade, and my eyes snap open. When I look at them again, it's gone.
You can head back to the car first if you want, Luke. I hope that settles everything, Rose. I don't know what Isabel's problem is, but please make sure she doesn't hurt herself. Anyway, we're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Likewise, ma'am.
No shadows or dark clouds, only amicable smiles and cordial handshakes, the usual pleasantries as Miss Cooper leads them out the mansion like a graceful host. None of the group seems to have noticed it, and even as I force my breathing to calm down, keep my eyes trained on their backs and wait for something to happen, it doesn't come back. She returns a moment later. Gently, she closes the great door behind her, but there's a smile on her lips and an extra skip in her step when she walks back to me. Whatever she was discussing with the group had put her in a good mood. Even she appears to have not observed anything odd. Katze die ganze Zeit. Was I just seeing things?
Glad that was over. It's been a long day. I thought for sure we were going to... Hey, are you sure you're doing okay? You look a bit green.
Been an alien.
It's all good. I'm actually still recovering from a cold. Weather's been crazy lately.
That must be it. The weather, the stupid cold, and the friendly warnings I'm too stubborn to listen to. As much as I hate to admit it, Isabella's right. I was and still am a little feverish when she visited me at school this morning. The medicine helped, of course, but only some. Although it's not like I can't function, I did get better at lunch, and I was able to go through my schedule like the usual. Now I'm not so sure. However, I can't keep acting like I've seen some sort of apparition when it's anything but. Was ist apparition? Apparition. Kenn ich nicht. Erscheinungen. Okay. Simply must have listened too many times to Isabella last week. My fever-muddled mind has started to confuse things. If this doesn't let up... Cleo! Moment. Ich muss kurz Cleo aus dem Karton rausholen. Hallo, kommen Sie da bitte raus? Nicht da reingehen. Das ist schlecht. Wenn das zusammenbricht, bist du Matsch. Upsi. Ich frage mich, ob sie das schon öfter gemacht hat, ohne dass ich es mitbekommen habe. If this doesn't let up, I just need another visit to my doctor. Plain and simple. Though I do hope it won't get worse. We did promise to watch Zachary's film
I
together.
know what you mean. I've been complaining to Isabel. It doesn't seem to affect her much, though. Must be because she grew up in the tropics. Anyway, shall we? She's probably hanging out with the rest of the catering staff.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised she's there. She eats like 10 hungry men when she isn't feeling well. Lead the way.
With a small nod, she gestures for me to follow. I do so without much thought, finally putting everything in the back of my mind. The entire visit took a whole 24 minutes. And my trip to the mansion, as it turns out, is a useless... And the was? Was? Bitte lies mir jemand dieses Wort vor. Endevauer? Nee, das kann nicht sein. Endeavour. Endeavour? In itself. Spricht man das so aus? So ist die Dings da. Endeavor. Okay, Endeavor heißt das. Ich habe das falsch interpretiert. Endeavor. Ja gut. Isabella's no longer there. Left shortly before I arrived. Or at least that's what the few staff who saw her assumed. None of them knew where she went, but I can take a few guesses. There are only a number of places in Luxburn she frequents, and, well, she's never been to the complex kind. It doesn't really take a genius to figure it out. Still, it's odd she left on her own. She could have at least waited for Miss Cooper, but would have saved her having to pay the cab's fare twice today.
And right after she was told to stay put. I mean, who does that? Oh, sod off! You don't own the road.
In the end, all Miss Cooper could give me were a string of apologies for my trouble and a request to let her know when I find Isabella. The whole affair didn't even last long. I probably spent more time traveling back and forth. Soon enough, I'm weaving my way back to downtown Luxburn, worried, sick, and on top of that, maybe a little annoyed. Whether at the unexpected turn of events or at Isabella herself, I'd rather not think about it for it now. Not when I'm already running late for Zachary's film. Besides, I'm perfectly sure that's where I'll find her. Meine Fresse, ich kann nicht mehr lesen. As one would expect, people are already gathered at the movie house when I get to it. The small avenue where it's located has been closed off early from any passing traffic to make way for the avid moviegoers who are sure to crowd the venue. I have to park almost a street away and walk the remaining distance because of it. Looking for them has taken a while in a crowd this big, but I eventually spot them near the entrance. Thanks to Zachary mostly, weil er so groß ist wahrscheinlich. And like I've surmised, Isabella's with them.
I knew it.
Wasting no time, I march over their little group. Leo, aufpassen. Words filled with concern trouble out of my mouth before I can stop myself.
Isabella! Oh, thank goodness. Becca, you're just in time.
An odd expression crosses her face as I hold it with both hands, but I ignore it in favor of getting a good look at her, forcing her to keep still and fix her gaze on me.
Becca, you're squishing my face. How are you? Are you all right? Why wouldn't I be?
There doesn't seem to be any visible injury, nor does she appear to be in pain. Apart from her confused frown at my questions, she looks pretty much like how she would any other day. Even so, you can't really tell those things with her at first glance. The last time she got sick, she never bothered to call anyone, even me, who lives right next door. If I hadn't checked on her then, she probably would have died on her bed with the rest of us none the wiser. It's one thing we laugh about now, but moments like those also teach you something about a person. If anything, it has given me more reason to constantly worry about her. And the moment a familiar name comes up, I know my concerns right now aren't completely baseless.
Rose called me earlier.
Her expression swiftly changes. Gently as she can, Isabella pushes my hand away. Yet even before she says anything, I already have a hunch how this whole thing will play out.
Oh, no, everything's good. Rose covered for me at work today.
That's not what I'm talking about. How's your head?
Then and there, the whole conversation goes down as I've imagined. She dodges my hand, and when I reach for the back of her head, intending to check the said injury myself. Even makes a show of hiding behind Zachary just to avoid me. Instantly, what's supposed to be a simple inquiry dissolves into a shameless game of tag. Shouting and chasing like none of us can be bothered to act like the full-grown adults we are all sudden we are all supposed to be. Meine Fresse. Ich kann nicht lesen. Including Ashton. I won't put it past Isabella, but Ash, out of everyone? In fact, if that stupid smirk on his face tells me anything, he finds this whole mess amusing. Oh, for the love of...
Isabella, this isn't a laughing matter.
She did look pale when I saw her.
Wow, thanks a lot, Ashton, you traitor. I'll get you back for this. Just you wait.
What? I'm just saying it as it is. If you mentioned this earlier, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
There's a moment's pause. My hand stills mid-air as my attention shifts to Ashton and the words he leaves hanging between the four of us. He doesn't meet my eye. I don't think he's even aware of what he said, but the meaning in each syllable alone is clear, and they echo. They sting. They burn.
I'm sorry. Saw her?
Yeah, they arrived together. Bella looked fine to me then. I don't know.
Of course. Of course. Why else would Isabella leave on her own after being told to stay put? After that little chat about money this morning? Something close to silence falls while I mull over their words, both what's already been said and what's left unspoken. When I do find my voice, it only reeks with nothing but bitter, unpleasant thoughts. Thoughts I quickly stamp out before they surface. Thoughts I hide the best I can in the deepest parts of my mind, locking it away for no one to see.
Oh, that's good. At least she didn't have to travel alone, right? At least. Good.
Yet try as I might, the green-eyed monster easily rears its ugly head. Like it always does every time his gaze lingers a second longer. Every time he smiles in a manner far too gentle, far too sincere, whenever he thinks no one can see. Every time my mind suggests these words mean more than they should. Every small little thing. Despite what he says, despite his tone.
Look, you guys.
For all I know, it may just be the same kind of fondness born from friendship. Maybe I'm simply overthinking, like he often tells me, or maybe there really is something there. But in his short display of impatience, I know the whole of it is just for show. After all, growing up together with him didn't teach me nothing about him. For whose sake it is this time, though? For him? For Zachary? For her? Or for me? That I can't tell.
If she says she's okay, then there's nothing we can do about it. It's not like we can stop her either. Besides, she's still acting like the same old Isabella to me, if she can still run around like that.
Why are you taking her side?
I'm not. But if she wants to watch Zach's movie with us, I'm not going to stop her. She's probably the one looking forward to it the most.
Ash, that's... You, of all people, should know...
Tell you what, if I notice something amiss with her, I'll take her to the nearest hospital myself. Is that good enough for you?
My mouth opens, then snaps shut almost as quickly, forming a thin, hard line instead. I can't respond, not because there's nothing to say. On the contrary, there's plenty, so many things I can use to reason and get him to agree. But because he speaks with much certainty, with much reassurance, it feels like there isn't even a choice. All I can give is a long, deep breath and a reluctant nod in the face of it. Before I can get a grip of myself and my own weakness, the mood immediately shifts and I'm being tackled into a hug.
Thanks, Becca.
It's always been you with him, isn't it?
Did you say something?
Me? Nothing. Don't mind me.
A lie, obviously. What else can it be? Each and every smile a tiny effort to keep things as they are, or so I tell myself. Little do I know, this is merely a preamble. Entschuldigung. It starts out quickly and without fanfare, amidst friendly jibes and harmless teasing, with the scrap of paper fluttering harmlessly to the ground. One that looks suspiciously like a cheap Halloween prank, no matter how you look at it. And yet, despite how ludicrous it all is, Isabella stubbornly insists, as if our whole life depends on acknowledging the truth in the story. Does she even realize how absurd she sounds now? Crivens, even my students wouldn't fall for this.
Isabella, aren't you taking this a bit too far?
She doesn't give me time to regret nor think over my choice of words. From there, it escalates, grows into an argument too petty even for our standards as adults. Before we know it, one after another, harsh, scathing words are being spoken.
It's not a joke! Will you guys listen to me first? I saw something in the house earlier. It stood right in front of me.
Ich glaube, da konnte ich mich entscheiden, ob ich es ihnen erzähle oder nicht. Und ich habe mich dazu entschieden, es ihnen zu erzählen. Ich glaube, ja, so war das. Und das ist jetzt halt das, wie ich mich entschieden habe.
If I hadn't gotten away, that thing might have...
Das ist da unten von mir.
Right. And in broad daylight, Isabella. Even someone gullible would find the logic in that screwed up. There's also no way in hell that this supernatural shit is true.
But it's real! What do you think I saw?
A hallucination? A delusion? Didn't you say you fell down some stairs? So maybe Rebecca's right.
It happened after, when I was trying to get away. I almost got stuck in the same room with that thing. We're all in danger. I thought you were my friends. Why don't you believe me?
But someone has to be patient in all this. And however much my own has already been frayed earlier, there's no one else. Who else here can deal with someone selfishly acting like a kid? Like every other time, it has to be me.
We are, and you know that. But this thing and that thing has got nothing to do with the other. When Rose called earlier, I thought she's just exaggerating. But based on what I'm seeing right now, maybe it's better if we really postpone this for now.
Don't bother.
Just like that, she cuts us off. Slams the door right on our faces while my own temper flares before I can stop it. Although it flatters briefly at the hard expression on her when she snatches and blasts the paper from Ashton, I hold onto it. Regardless of how upset she appears, soured expression and balled fists throwing a tantrum is simply unacceptable, for a grown woman at that. Words from at the tip of my tongue ready. But before I can open my mouth and let all of it out, her feelings and mistakes. Be damned, Zachary raises a voice of his own.
Guys!
A warning underneath the warm and hopeful beat of his voice. We all stop and look to him, and even my own anger subsides a little at this tone.
Why don't we all calm down first? I'm sure Isabella has her reasons too. No need to be hard on her. And hey, ain't this supposed to be a happy get-together?
To an outsider, it may sound like a desperate request, but Zachary has always been the one to keep the level head over petty scrabbles. This time's no different. He knows what to say, and when he lets it fall, they only ring sharp and true.
We haven't seen each other for months. I'd really love to know what y'all have been up to.
Das die ganze Zeit wiederholen der Geschichte aus anderen Perspektiven ist doch schon ein bisschen nervig, weil das zögert alles so weit raus und es passiert nichts.
Please.
And as careful as he is with his own tone, it does make me feel ashamed. We're supposed to be here for him, to give what little support we can give, yet here he is trying to keep 3 stubborn people from outright hashing it out in public. Later we can and will talk about it, of course. There's a proper time and place for it, at the moment my anger and whatever reprimands it carries no longer matter. Besides me, Ashton appears to have already caught on. The line of his shoulders eased to something much more relaxed, his expression back to its usual nonchalance. Isabella, however, she stands perfectly still, her hands grasping the straps of her back like a lifeline, eyes trained at some point near her shoes. There's no anger in her face, only an undeniable hurt. But she's never been good at hiding what she thinks. Always the open book, always the one to wear her heart out in the open. And when she looks up, her answer is also as simple. Willst du mitreden? Geht's dir gut? Was denn? Der wollte gerade auf meinen Schoß springen, hat's aber gelassen. Jetzt ist er da. Hallo.
If we keep arguing here, we're going to miss the first few minutes.
Her lips are curled up in a smile, though lacking both its usual brightness and glee, it's a smile nonetheless. I've seen it countless of times. It's the very same one she would show when she knows, has no other choice, or simply when things get tough for her. Nein, lass das. But despite everything I already know about her, it still catches me off guard. In all honesty, I expect her to run, to balk at the first sign of losing this time. I won't even be surprised. At 26, she is the youngest among the rest of us, less experienced, less accustomed to dealing with trivial quarrels like this. Yet here she is, holding herself and coping with it like how she would with matters concerning her family. Outside of that, to me, she has always been this childish, naive girl. I'm watching the opposite play out right now. Somehow, I find it difficult to wrap my head around it.
All right, that's the Isabella I know.
Oh, good. I thought for sure you were going to cry.
But I envy her.
What was that for?
Stop calling me a crybaby! I'm not one!
Oh, don't cry.
Stop it!
I envy her spirit. Her warmth. Meine Fresse. Her cheer. The shine in her eyes when she looks at the world. How everything seems to simply fall back to a pleasant, lively rhythm with her around. How easily and tightly she fits into our lives, even without bonds only long years could forge, like a lost piece in a puzzle despite her jagged edges. How she draws people to her with ease. How Ashton, of all people, can be drawn to her.
Okay, scaredy cat then.
That too! If you repeat that, I swear I'll...
Let's just go.
I make no effort keeping the bitterness from my tone. I let it see linger stiffly in the air as I avert my gaze from them. From their playful banter, their friendly teasing remarks, and Ashton's tender, affectionate smile. All before the stabbing axe in my heart change into something too painful to bear. It's all in my head, is what I'd often tell myself. Yet, the way my heart rends at just the sight of them hurts. And like a coward, I walk away from all of it, taking with me a small hope the movie will distract me away from these thoughts. Because, like this, it's easy to find something to hate in her. Dusk has already given way to night when we leave the film fest. Unfortunately, it does nothing to improve my mood, like I am hoping. Neither does the muggy air that greets us upon stepping back into the noisy streets. Too busy, too loud, too many people taking what little space the sidewalk offers. It forces anyone to bump shoulders with those they barely know, let alone care about. On a normal evening, I probably wouldn't have minded the crowd nor the humid weather. It's not like any of them are bothering anyone. And yet, even with what's admittedly a pleasant company, I can't bring myself to lighten up.
See you guys some other time.
Yeah, see ya!
Not even to return the smiles Ashton and Zachary gives us when we go our separate ways. Perhaps this started with Miss Cooper's call or earlier than that. Maybe even the moment I left bed this morning. Bloody hell, it could have been because of that sodding letter, for all I know. I couldn't care less at this point. All I want is to get a warm bath, sleep, and wait for this dreadful day to end. Now, if only Isabella would stop babbling when maybe this dull throbbing at the side of my head won't turn into a full-blown headache too. Then
Zach did a pretty good job with his movie, didn't he? Even though Ash said he ran into some trouble late into filming. But I knew he had it in him. It's not like I didn't believe he couldn't do it. I mean, did you see his face after the credits rolled? All those months he worked on this, and everything's finally...
You weren't even watching.
Only the first minutes. I watched the rest of it, I swear. Besides, Ashton was the one who wouldn't stop asking questions.
Well, why do we still need to talk about this then? I liked it. Ash liked it. You liked it. Shouldn't you be telling that to Zachary in person? I'm sure he'll appreciate it better than I ever will.
I know that, but maybe there's something you want to say? Zach had you check the scripts before he went through everything, didn't he? You also worked on it, even if it was only for a short time. So, maybe you want to...
I don't bother waiting for the rest. The moment I spot my car, I immediately make a quick beeline for it. Knowing her, this is merely another attempt at starting a conversation, just so we'll have something to fill the dead air, to replace the strained atmosphere we've somehow walked into. One thing, the very thing, I'm not too keen to deal with at present. Ach, du piekst mich mit... Maybe. Behind. Au, au, au! Beißt er mir einfach in den Arm. Behind me, Isabella also changes her pace to match mine. Her soft strides growing brisk and uneven in order to catch up. Nein, du legst dich nicht dahin. Nicht auf die Tastatur. Hör auf, mich zu beißen. Ich wollte gerade wieder in meinen Arm beißen. In ein Loch getappt. Gut jetzt? Bleibst du da liegen? Alles gut? Habe ich jetzt schon gelesen? A small part of me half expects she'll suddenly trip. She's not the clumsy sort, but there are definitely times when she can be the least coordinated person on the planet.
Becca, hey! Oh no. Wait for me!
And people wonder why I worry. They're not really completing unfound... Oh, mein Kopf. They're not really completing unfounded. Once you've already grown familiar with her habits. Though right now, this is also at the very end of the list of things I want to think about. Sometimes it does become overbearing. Even her voice as she calls after me sounds nothing more than background noise to my ears now.
Rebecca, slow down, will you? Your car's not going to leave without us.
The sooner we get on the road, the earlier we can get home. It's Friday, in case you didn't notice.
I know what day it is, but the traffic's not going to magically disappear, even if we go there right now.
I don't want to hear that from you. Didn't you used to complain how horrendous the traffic is back home for you?
Yeah? But that doesn't have anything to do with this, Becca.
Okay. What do you want to do then? Wait it out? Walk? I just want to go home, Isabella. If you want to stay out here longer, I won't stop you. But leave me out of it. I'm not up for any other foolish excursions tonight.
I wasn't thinking about an excursion. I want to go home too. It's already late. It's just that you've been in this prickly mood since earlier. Are you really okay? Was it the cold? Or did something happen at school? Do you want to talk about it?
A long pause follows and it holds everything she's been meaning to ask from the very start. I'm in no mood, but all the same, my hands stop short of unlocking my car and my grip on the handle tightens. I can feel her eyes boring on me, waiting, hoping patiently for any answers I'd give. She's the same as Zachary, they are bad liars. But when you talk to people like them, if you're not careful, they often leave you with no other choice but to admit the truth. Those exact same ones I can't voice. Despite my lack of response, she pushes on. She pushes on, surprisingly. The time her tone is quieter. This time her tone is quieter, more tentative than usual.
Was it because of the letter?
It's a well-meaning question, much like the rest of this talk, yet something is in how she says
If
it.
it is, I'm really sorry. I
Irks
didn't
me?
mean to cause a scene.
Irks, yeah, okay.
I did see something in the mansion, though. I wasn't lying about that.
Whatever she wants to take, wherever she wants to take this, I no longer want to hear a word of it. Not at this minute, preferably never. Guck mal kurz ins Journal. Wie süß. Wir haben Minus gemacht bei Ashton. Ashton und Luke kann ich noch spielen. Hannah habe ich leider nicht mehr. Nee, Hannah habe ich ja gespielt bis zu dem Punkt. Luke habe ich noch nicht gespielt. Ashton habe ich noch nicht gespielt. Interessant, die Beziehungen hier rechts zu sehen. Wie die sich entwickelt haben. Especially when there are already a million other things buzzing and prodding inside my head. Sometimes my patience can only be tried for so long.
And during the open house, even if there were a lot of people around, there were weird things happening.
Minus gemacht. Wir sind doch nur ehrlich. Warum mag die uns jetzt weniger? Nur weil wir sagen, ich bin gerade nicht in der Stimmung zu reden. Das ist doch okay, wenn wir das sagen. Das ist okay, wenn man das sagt. Du kannst auch mal nicht in der Stimmung sein.
I don't know if there was anyone else who noticed, but I'm sure it wasn't because I fell down the stairs. Even before that, in the attic,
Will you give the sorting letter a rest already?
The effect is immediate. Abruptly, Isabella clamps her mouth shut. Hurt flickers across her face as she looks away and her shoulders droop, all before the thought of holding back on my tone or how she'll take every word crosses my mind. When the realization does hit after, a twinge of guilt washes over me at once. But with all that has already been said and done, what am I supposed to tell her that meine Fresse, that I'm someone who can so easily can be so easily unsettled by my own assumptions? That is stupid sulk. That this stupid sulk has been brought upon by some equally... Ja, jetzt habe ich schon wieder nicht so viel aufgehängt. Equally stupid jealousy. That the simple glimpse of her and my childhood friend together infuriates a part of me. Or that I wish I've been in her place during those times instead. True or not, I owe her neither of those, and if anything, she's the last person I want to know about it.
Look here, I'm not in the mood for this kind of talk tonight. My head is aching and I'm tired. I don't want to hear about the dumb letter or the mansion or whatever it was you saw in the bloody attic. Just get in the car and we're going home.
Sorry. I won't mention it again.
If you're so worried about it, why don't you just throw the blasted thing away?
You make it sound so easy.
Because it is. Here, hand it over and I'll do it for you. Might as well shred it up while we're at it.
I hold a hand out to her, though the gesture is without any expectation. She's nothing if not stubborn. And it isn't surprising when she turns the offer down with a sweat of her hand.
Rebecca, just leave it alone, okay? I get it. You don't want anything to do with it.
Good. I hope that settles it.
Yeah, just forget I mentioned anything. I'll figure it out myself.
That makes me stop again. This time I turn to look at her, searching her face for an explanation, but all she offers me is a sidelong glance and another one of those pained looks before climbing on the passenger's seat and closing the door behind her. Somehow, even with the steady din of traffic around us, the sound of that feels heavier, weighted with everything we refuse to utter tonight. This is what I want, isn't it? It certainly doesn't feel like it. Thankfully, if there's anything left to be spoken between us after, we won't have to discuss it on the way home. Or rather, we can't. Because no sooner than we hit the road, Isabella dozes off. Despite my foul mood, I still end up suppressing laughter once the first second of her breathing fills the car.
Mama?
Not your mom, Isabella.
Slow and steady, the quiet rhythm so completely unlike her, so far removed from every impression anyone has of her. A few faint whimpers will occasionally come from her, but otherwise it's just us, this silence, and it's so utterly unexpected. Still a welcome break, of course. Peace and quiet is one thing you will rarely get with her around. Yet it's nowhere near comforting. It merely lends the air this strange clarity. Every little sound, every single movement more palpable, meine Fresse. And with it comes the unease. A jolt of surprise hits me. It's almost comical if this were a different situation. In my haste, I accidentally dislodge my mobile from its seat on the dashboard when I swipe on the screen. Soon, I'm scrambling blindly for it with my other hand while keeping a steady eye on the road ahead. A voice crackles from the loudspeakers before I can put it back. Although muffled heavily by the surface, I recognize the person on the other line from her chipper tone alone.
Hello? Miss Cooper?
Oh, you're still awake. Evening. I hope I didn't disturb you or anything. I know it's a bit late. Sorry about that. I just want to check on you and
Hat sich
Isabella.
ja angehört, als würden wir sie anrufen, nicht andersrum.
Were you able to meet up with her?
Yes. She's with me. We're on our way home.
Hello? What was that again? I can't hear you properly.
Sorry. Let me just fix this dumb phone.
My hand stops that for a moment. I spare the device a brief glance, waiting. Seconds pass. Nothing happens, though. Frankly, I'm not sure what I'm expecting, but the lines of my mouth forms
Miss Cooper?
into a frown regardless.
Yes, still here.
Did you say something?
Just that I didn't get the last part. What were you saying again?
No, I thought you... Never mind. Must be the signal acting up. Coming in?
What?
Is everything all right over there?
Certainly. Is something wrong? What wouldn't? Okay, you seem to be busy. If this is a good time, I can just call you back some, other...
I have to make a conscious effort not to panic right then and there, although my tight hold on the steering wheel tells a different story altogether.
Miss Cooper? Rose? Hey, Rose! Are you still there?
Only a burst of static answers me and... Das klingt jetzt aber nicht mehr wie der Geist. Maybe this lapse is entirely because of exhaustion. Exhausted? Exhaustion. Ja, könnte hinkommen. It has been a long day and I haven't fully recovered from last week's bout of flu, contrary to what I've been telling people. Though perhaps had I paid closer attention to it, had I not been so occupied with other thoughts, I probably would have noticed earlier that it never came from my phone, but from somewhere right behind me. Time slows in a crawl, to a crawl. Looking up is a mistake. The first thing I see is its face, a ghastly shade, every inch battered, bruised and bloodied. Even in the darkness and the world passing by in a blur of light outside, I can still make out the wounds. Blood still oozes from it, like trails of crimson running down his face, running down its face, glistening under what little light there is. But it is the gleam in its eyes that catches mine. It is the gleam in its eyes that catches mine. So the quiet plea, the anguish, and the desperation in them, more than its hideous features and the awful stench of gore now soaking the air. And try as I might, I can't bring myself to look away, even as its lips contort into a horrific smile. Even as a sharp, harsh noise pierces the air and the silence around us.
Rebecca! Huh?
Rebecca? Achso, ja, wir heißen ja Rebecca. Sie heißt ja Isabella, meine Fresse.
Car! Eyes on the road!
Against everything I've been taught, and I've constantly reminded myself, I close my eyes. It's a brief moment, a short, vivid second of muscle memory and instinct completely taking over. And if I didn't follow it, if my hands didn't move or my feet didn't hit the brakes in that exact second, Isabella and I might have... No, I shake the notion away before I lose myself in it. Right now, it's an ugly line of thoughts I refuse to venture into. Not when breathing is a struggle and every ounce of strength has been totally drained from my body. Most definitely not while Isabella's panicked voice beside me still rings in my ears. We are alive. We are safe. That's all that matters. But it is not her face that I look for when I finally open my eyes. All gone. I expected stains, little telling marks and creases on the covers to show me where it sat not a second ago. But whatever it is, it left not a single trace. And though courage is a hard thing to gather at this point, I take what little of it remains in me and turn towards the back seat. Even then, there is none. Fast einen Unfall gebaut. Or was there really something in there in the first place? With how empty it is, I'm beginning to doubt it. This stupid flu again.
I need a long rest after this.
My hands fall uselessly to my sides, numb from how taut my grip on the wheel has gone, yet still trembling from the unexpected rush of adrenaline. Against my ears, my heart still pounds an erratic rhythm, and my breathing hasn't slowed down. But the world has already righted itself without waiting for me, and little by little, second after second, as I sit here motionless, color begins to seep back around me. Along with it are the sounds and the voice, no longer the indistinct ringing it was earlier.
Becca, are you okay? Answer me, will you? You're scaring me. You know what? I think we should just call a taxi since...
Can you keep it down?
Strained, harsh, and completely unintentional, but with heat prickling at the back of my eyes and the mild throbbing at my temple, I could honestly do what a little silence for now. With nicht what?
Keep it down? We almost crashed, Becca.
I know what happened. It was a lapse. I'm sorry.
A lapse? You call that a lapse? Becca, I really don't want to end up a mangled mess on the side of the road, or a mangled mess anywhere. All I'm asking, if the time ever comes, which I hope isn't right now, is a peaceful death. Give that one to me at least. Not that I'm asking for it, but please.
Isabella. Belle, you're overreacting. If you're so worried, why don't you drive?
Don't have a license.
I keep telling you to get one, didn't I? For the past 5 years. Do you see why now?
I wasn't really expecting to stay here this long. I thought it'd just be for a year or two.
All of a sudden, a pensive mood comes over her. Isabella looks away then, while what's left of my little lecture never crosses the tip of my tongue. I don't allow it to, because in each of those words she let loose earlier is a small truth. Her stay has always been meant to be something fleeting. Her earn some good money, go home. It's what she'd tell herself during her first year here. Now, half a decade later, I'm not sure if she still believes that. Even I'm not sure if I still believe it. And if there's something in her reasons that has changed along the way, even if I already have a hunch. It's one thing I'll never bother to ask. Those are hers to keep.
I'll be careful this time, I promise. Just please, can we give this whole thing a rest for now?
She nods, and that is the end of it. We spent the rest of the trip back to Salem well in silence. All thoughts of an overactive imagination playing tricks on a flu-addled mind, and of smiles never meant for my eyes, abandoned, if only for a brief moment. It begins innocently enough. Tuesday morning arrives like any other day before it, bright and clear, even though it comes with an extra helping of the unusual October weather. I appreciate being able to catch a glimpse of the clear skies lately. After going through a bout of sickness last week, it does something to lift the mood of what would otherwise be a dreary morning. And despite being mostly creature of habit, I wind up walking earlier than usual because of it. Still no earlier than Isabella, it appears. I've assumed she'll take a day or two off because of what happened to Miss Cooper, but that doesn't seem to be the case. The sound of the morning news drifts from her unit when I walk past on the way to my mailbox. Chances are, around this hour she's already dressed and ready to go, probably just waiting for the next bus to arrive. I've tried following her example before, but I don't think I'll be repeating that.
Really? How can anyone be up before the sun is up?
Ja, das frage ich mich auch jeden Tag. Und danach. Und überhaupt. It's a habit she got from home, she said, instilled in her by the kind of life she grew up in. Like clockwork, it's always at 4 a.m., either to help with the chores or prepare her little siblings for school. It surprised me the first time she just didn't look like someone who could. In the end, I've simply passed it off as one of the many things someone will have to get used to around her. Not that I'll ever fully understand. I'm my parents' only child. We aren't well off, but so far I've lived a relatively easy life. I didn't have to think about bills or food for the next day, or paying for any siblings' tuitions on top of my own, or supporting a sick father's medication. All I have to worry about were my grades, if it'd gain mom and dad's approval, or what we'd be having for dinner. When put next to hers, they all pale in comparison. They look less like problems and more like petty issues this way.
Petty issues?
But as unimportant as it all sounds, sometimes its ugly head rears at the most inappropriate moments. And sometimes they come through your mailbox in forms of a fancy-looking letter, pretty ribbons and all. However, whoever sent this has spent silly money on the envelope alone. Verging on ridiculous, really. I can already imagine Isabella wrinkling her nose once she sees this. Then she'll complain about unnecessary expenses and rich people problems. I'm almost afraid to touch it myself, as if simply brushing a hand against its crisp surface, will be enough to put a crease on it, and it'll be a terrible slight to the sender. But as extravagant as I find this, it isn't really the first time I've received one. Most of the time, it's not even for me, so who am I to complain? Either way, no look of surprise crosses my face once I flip the envelope over to see my parents' name written on the neat script.
Nothing new then.
Their years in the academy naturally brought with it various connections. People from other fields, arts, science, business, politics, you name it. This one, though, gives off a much personal vibe. Letters like this usually come from old students. People who've grown fond of my parents and they in turn treat like children of their own. I've only met a few of them. Most have moved on to become successful in their chosen careers. And little letters like this are their way to expressing gratitude. It's one thing Mom and Dad wahrscheinlich are proud of, rightfully so, and I'm happy for them. But there are times I wish they'll remember they have a daughter here, a real one. Not that it's of any importance now. It's not like they didn't raise me well and provided for me. They did. I wouldn't be where I am now if it weren't for their hard work. And like a dutiful child, I do everything I can to give back. Even if it's as small as a thing as letting them know they've got another mail waiting for them. The phone rings for a good minute before someone answers. Mum, her voice as warm as I remember.
Hi, Mum. How's the conference going?
Well enough. Until your dad sprained his ankle.
Doch da.
Oh no, is it bad?
I'm alright. In case anyone in this family cares to listen, I'm alright. Very much alive, darling.
And there you have it. He'll be up and walking in a few weeks, don't worry. We're going to have to extend our stay here until it heals, though. Is something the matter?
Nothing big. Just that this mail arrived for you this morning.
A lie, thankfully, she doesn't notice. Although, if I'm going to be honest, a small part of me yearns for her to do so and ask me about it, but I put down that idea almost as soon as it surfaces. I shouldn't make them fret. They're busy. Schlecht. Das ist eine schlechte Denkweise.
What does it say?
Raise your glasses, give cheers to the good times, blah, blah.
Becca manners. That isn't how I taught you to read.
Sorry. You are cordially... it's an invitation, Mum, for a housewarming party. From, Hannah?
The name rings a bell, though, at the moment. I can't recall when or where I heard it recently. It must be nothing too important if I didn't bother committing to the memory. There are a lot of Hannahs in the world, so who knows?
Hannah.
She also wrote you a note, Mum. It says you used to be her private tutor at the Evans mansion. And that she misses you and would love to see you two again.
It makes my heart clench to read another openly say those words to them. The same ones I want to tell them. I want to see you too. It's been years since we've been together as family, and if there's one thing that hasn't changed from childhood, it's that mom and dad are still busy with their respective careers. Out of the country, away on some meetings or symposiums, sometimes from months on end. It only grew more frequent with the years until I'm old enough to live on my own. I'd like to think that's how we've become independent at such an early age. I've, nicht wie. They've always praised me for that. At times I wish they didn't.
Evans? Oh, I remember now. Honey, it's Hannah. Hannah Evans. Remember? Bright girl, 2 years older than Becca?
Didn't she get married a few years ago? 7 now, I think. But they grow up so fast, these kids.
Yeah, she invited us to that too. Fonte de Medici. But we missed that one because you had to present your paper in Singapore.
We did send her a note after. Still a shame we couldn't attend, though. What is it about this time?
She sent another invite for a housewarming party. Becca, when is it?
This Friday, Mum.
Oh, that's too bad. We'd love to be there, but Da's not in a condition to go walking around. I guess we'd have to decline again. I really miss that girl.
I could go in your place.
I let it slip without thinking. Personally, I've never been fond of gatherings, regardless of how simple people make it seem. But if there's one thing I hate hearing, that disappointment note in Mom's voice always ranks first. Whether it's directed at me or some other thing doesn't matter.
Are you sure? Don't you have work this Friday?
The event will be in the evening, Mum. It shouldn't take anything away from my schedule.
Hat sie gerade Schedule gesagt? Schedule. Sagt man das so? Schedule. Oh, mein Rücken. Oh. Oh.
It's all right.
Sie hat das gesagt. Sie hat gesagt Schedule.
With me so things don't get
Es
boring.
gibt bestimmt irgendwelche Dialekte, wo die das so aussprechen. Aber nochmal heißt es Schedule. Ich weiß. Schedule.
I see. Maybe you can also invite Ashton?
Mum, that's a sure no from him. He hates attending parties. But I'll see what I can do.
Leo. Macht doch gar nichts.
If not,
So, als
I
hätte
can
sie
always
grad
bring
nichts
Isabella
gemacht.
with me. You know her. She won't say no if there's food involved.
Okay, if it's not going to be a big problem for you, I don't see why not. We owe you this one, darling.
No problem, Mum. I'll even say hi to Hannah for you.
Please do. And let her know we'd love to see her once we're back in the city. Leave her our number or something.
I will.
But you know, the two of you would have become really good friends. Don't you remember? You met with her once. If my memory serves me right, you were 12 then?
This too I can't recall. It's probably one of those meetings where we only talked a bit before going our ways. If she did leave an impression, I'm pretty sure I would have written about it somewhere or at least recognized her name. As it is, the only few people I remember clearly from that time in my life is Ashton and Mandy. To some extent. Mom must have sensed my confusion because she laughed.
Don't push yourself too hard, darling. Really? It felt like having two daughters back then. Sometimes I wish they didn't send her away to boarding school. But, well, you know how often that goes with them. Still, try talking to her while you're there.
Oh, we'll see. I'll let you know what happens after.
I'm looking forward to it, darling. Take care of yourself.
Will do. You too, Mom. Bye. Tell Dar to be careful next time.
She chuckles then. A hearty one, tender as always, light on my ears. And always light on my ears. She may be a stern teacher, but this is the part of her I love the most. The sound of it still echoes, even as our call comes to an abrupt end, bringing with it a memory from so many years ago, when life and responsibilities that accompany adulthood are things far from our minds. I've given a chance, I'd love to go back to those. I don't dwell on it though, shaking it all away almost as soon as the memory forms a clear picture in my head. I've always wondered how Isabella can easily pretend everything's normal over a phone call, then bounce back to her usual self immediately after. I've seen her do it plenty of times. For me, it just drains whatever energy I have. And with a whole day of teaching still ahead of me, I can't afford to look exhausted in front of my students. Even for a wee bit, it's never a good example to set. Wie, du machst den PC aus. Pass du auf, bitte. So with another sigh, I put everything at the back of my mind and tread back to my room. The rest of my day waits. Kratz, 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 kratz. Oh, you pick. 15 minutes later, I'm heading back out, dressed for the day, my car keys in hand. Hi Gamla, wie geht's? Ordinarily, I don't stop for anything. There is never a need to. What's the beauty of this apartment complex? That's the beauty of this apartment complex. It's quite quiet and everyone keeps to themselves. Gut und selbst ganz okay. Ich habe ein bisschen Bammel vom Morgen, aber aua! Cleo! Nicht dich an meiner Hand rumreiben und mir dann in die Hand beißen. Was soll das? Vor allem erst zart und dann voll reingehauen. Und jetzt sind sie weggerannt, weil ich Cleo gesagt habe. Und aua. Soll ich sagen, ich habe ein bisschen Bammel vom Morgen, aber irgendwie freue ich mich auch, weil es ein Schritt in eine gute Richtung ist. No useless platitudes in the morning. No need to wear a smile on your face lest other people are nosy enough to ask. Today, however, the morning broadcast still plays from Isabella's room. My brisk pace slows to a stop and a frown gradually forms on my
She
face.
hasn't left.
Of course, this isn't unusual. Das isn't oder das ist? Isn't. There are times when I've left earlier than she did, like last Friday before their open house. But those days are few and far between. It only happens in the direct circumstances. In the direct circumstances, though, the last part of that might be a bit of an exaggeration. However, with what's happened in the last few days, maybe today is one. The death of a friend isn't something anyone can brush off, and for someone like Isabella's the kind who gets attached to people easily. With Zachary, Ashton, and I, that has been the case. I can't imagine what she might be going through right now, especially when the woman was someone she owed a lot, despite their training being brief. I've given her the space last night and interference, but perhaps today might be the proper time to check on her.
Oh, whatever. I've still got time anyway.
With light steps, I move closer to her door and hand already poised to knock. Still, I don't do so until I hear her answer me.
Isabella? Belle? Are you in there?
No answer. After a second, I finally knock, lightly so I don't disturb her in case she's sleeping and has merely left the telly running last night. Never mind how she never lets that happen, ever. Waste of electricity and all.
I just want to check on you before I leave. Is that okay? Are you going to work today? Belle?
Still nothing.
I'm about to leave. If you want, I can drop you off.
Another round of knocking. Then I'm fishing out a copy of her key from my bag and unlocking the door. She lent it years ago after I complained about the mess and offered my help in cleaning up. I thought the gesture was completely unnecessary back then. After all, I could always knock. But she never did bother taking them from me, always returning it or turning away from the conversation whenever I insist. At one point, I've simply stopped trying to hand it back to her.
Isabella? I'm coming in, all right?
Without waiting for her answer, I push the door open and step inside. Her unit's still a mess. Instant noodle cups on the table, a pile of clothes on one side, papers strewn about everywhere, and an unkempt bed, among other things. This much is a given. Will always be a given. I've been here several times already, and I still wonder how she can function like a human being with the place in this state. Guck mich mal an, Alter. Sieht nicht anders aus. However, that's neither here nor there. Funktioniere ich wie ein normaler Mensch? Ich glaube nicht. Das ist schon normal. I'm not sure what I'm expecting, but it's certainly not finding an empty flat. Granted, she could have left earlier, far earlier than usual, but she never ever leaves without making sure she's unplugged everything. That's something she doesn't forget to do. It doesn't help that her bathroom appears unused this morning, another habit, and it can only mean she hasn't been here since last night? Perhaps even since the morning after Mrs. Cooper's death? Either idea doesn't sit well with me. What with the news we've been hearing lately?
The authorities are still trying to find the cause of death for all the victims.
All the victims?
Early investigation revealed most of them were employed under Briar Realty Corporation at the time of death. Meanwhile, BRC has refused to comment on this.
Gathering my wits, I immediately place a call to her mobile. Was? Wann? Also wir hatten ja eine Szene, nachdem sie dann zur Arbeit gegangen ist. Nachdem sie zur Arbeit gegangen ist, nachdem die andere da gestorben ist, hatten wir ja eine Szene, wo sie sich vor dem Geist versteckt hat. Hat dieser Geist dann alle anderen umgebracht? Wann hat er das gemacht? Jetzt die Tage? Bis jetzt? Jetzt? War das ein aktueller Bericht? Oder war das ein Recall von einem Bericht, der ein paar Tage vorher war? Ich bin verwirrt. Weil wir hatten es ja überlebt und es war ja eigentlich gar keiner mehr da, als wir da waren. Die waren ja alle schon weg, wir sind länger geblieben. It rings for a good minute, the sound of comfort in itself. But when another minute rolls by without her answering. Es läuft nicht chronologisch ab. Das ist ja das, was ich meine. Wir waren ja dort. Das ist jetzt ein paar Tage, nachdem die Miss Cooper gestorben ist. Wir waren ja einen Tag nach dem Tod dort als Rebecca und haben da den Geist gehabt. So. Und haben das aber überlebt. Aber als wir da waren und das halt dieses Minigame hatten, war niemand mehr im Büro. Das heißt, es muss ja danach passiert sein. Also zwischen jetzt, wo wir jetzt sind, und wo wir mit Rebecca waren, dass da noch mehr Leute gestorben sind. Also ist das jetzt ein aktueller Bericht von diesem Tag, wo wir jetzt sind, dass zwischen der Zeit noch Leute gestorben sind? Weil der redet ja von mehreren Toten. Well, I'm not a woman prone to panicking, sudden bouts of temper maybe, but never panic despite how I may sound when speaking. And when it ultimately goes straight to her voicemail, I sigh. A sigh is the only thing I let out. The pause doesn't last long though. In the next moment, my fingers are already moving across the screen in search of the two people who might be able to help. It's Ashton's number I find first and dial. Ich glaube, nach dem Vorfall sind wir direkt zu Zachary gegangen, ne? Und haben da übernachtet. Call it a habit. Deswegen sind wir jetzt hier nicht drin. Also deswegen ist Rebecca jetzt nicht hier in ihrem Dings. Es war aber, das ist ja ein Tag, nachdem sie gestorben ist. Das ist ja 2 Tage gerade mal. Wie viele Menschen sind denn gestorben in diesen 2 Tagen? Call it a habit, but even Isabella thinks he's dependable when the situation calls for it, despite how much they give each other grief. That already says a lot about him. There's Zachary, but around this hour he's probably still sleeping. If he has freelance work, it's very likely he's just gotten himself in bed. He's the last person I want to bother of anything. The wait doesn't take long. Soon a click, then Ashton's voice echoes through the receiver, rough and still heavy with sleep. He never did grow fond of mornings.
Becca? Christ, what time is it? What's up?
Not you, apparently.
Good one. Did you call us early just to make that joke? I'm going back to sleep.
Das geht auch nur im Englischen, der
No,
Witz.
Ash, hold on. This is important.
Becca, stakeout last night. Make this quick. I've still got a few hours before the chief
sorry. I'll let you go back to sleep after. It's just that... Wait, you were on a stakeout last night?
Did I say that? Shit. Forget I said that. Forget I said anything. Forget we had this conversation.
So, you have no idea?
About what? About what? I also have no idea why we're talking so early in the morning. So
Der Ton geändert und er hat sich kurz wiederholt.
No, will you stop sleep talking or whatever for a second? Belle didn't come home last night. She's gone.
Who?
Isabella!
Instead of an answer, a brief pause. Moment. A brief pause comes after, followed by something blunt and heavy hitting a hard surface and and a string of rather colorful curses from him. Er ist aus dem Bett gefallen. The moment might have been one of the many things I'll keep to myself and remember fondly in the next few days, if things aren't the way they are. When he picks up again, there is no trace of sleep left in his voice.
Say that again, from the top.
Isabella's gone, Ash. She didn't come home last night. Her flat's empty. She left her telly running. You know she doesn't do that at...
Okay, Becca, stop. Calm down first. You're starting to panic.
I'm not!
You are. Breathe. One person's not going to simply disappear like that. This is Isabella we're talking about. Did you try calling her?
What did you think is the first thing I did? She's not picking up. It went to her voicemail.
How about Zach? Did you check with him?
Not yet. I didn't want to bother him. You know he has trouble sleeping and all that.
All right, I'll go ask Zach. I'll call you back.
No, wait!
He ends the call before I can utter a single word of protest. But for the first time since entering this room, tension is gone from my shoulders and my breathing has eased. The bed creaks as I sink down on it with a sigh. The telly still blares the same uninteresting news, and I'm surrounded by clutter. All the same, it feels strangely calm to be here without worry nagging at me. I'd have to apologize to Zachary later for sending Ashton his way this early, but for now, relying on the latter for this isn't the wrong choice. It never will be. That's something I won't ever doubt in him, much like his promises. And true to his words, he calls back only a few minutes after after the last one has ended.
She's with Zach.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. She could have at least sent a message last night.
What are you, her mother?
It's one thing to hear that from Isabel, but from Ashton?
I don't want to hear anything like that from you.
I'm serious. You've got to stop treating her like she's one of your students, Becca. You don't have to keep tabs on her every time. Last I checked, she's only 3 years younger than the two of us. That's almost a decade gap from those kids you're teaching, you know.
Says the person who keeps calling her Scaredy Cat.
That's not related at all. Anyway, I'll go check how she's doing. Don't stress yourself out. You go ahead to work.
Wait, you? Don't you have a precinct to be at? Whatever happened to not treating her like one of my students? Because if anyone's going to ask me, I think you're doing the same thing.
Zach said it's an emergency. Something happened last night.
Emergency?
He didn't put in those exact same words, but it sounded like it.
Ash, what really happened? Is Isabella fine?
She's alright. She's safe. Zach let her stay the night after she... Look, okay. Z-Man wasn't clear about it, but let me handle this. I'll check on her. I'll bring her home.
It sounds like a lie if I've ever heard one. The sort where he omits things so people won't fret, and I'm not sure whether I should be happy or he cares that much to do that. There shouldn't be a need for this between us, is there? We grew up together, didn't we? He knows I'm capable of at least hearing out the truth without it gnawing at me for the rest of the day. He knows me better than that. I know him better than that. Frankly, there's plenty of other things to say about this, but despite and after all the trouble he went through with how things are moving at the moment, only one thought occurs to me. What should I say? I recognize his concern for what it is. It's not new for him to go out of his way for us. And to be honest, this is what I love about him. As much as I would have loved to take this off his hands, it'll only be selfish of me to insist, considering he knows of my other commitments. To do so feels like I'll be trampling on that kindness he seldom offers to anyone.
Sorry for putting you up to this.
Nah, don't mention it. You've got other things you need to worry about. Take care of those first. This is a small thing.
I still owe you one.
Oh, I can name a few things you can do about that. You know, there's this ice cream shop that opened near the movie house. I could use.
Okay, let's stop right there. That's enough. On second thought, maybe I'll just think about it some other time.
Harsh.
We both laughed, the sound lighter and more comfortable. Moment. Ja, ne? Guck. Hier war dieses Dings. Das war an dem Abend, wo wir Film geguckt haben. Und hier Moment. Da haben wir versucht, das Ding auszuräuchern. Da, Sonntag kam die News, dass sie gestorben ist. Sah aus wie Selbstmord oder sowas. Und Montag, Dienstag, das ist da, wo sie dann weggerannt ist. Und das ist der Tag, an dem wir jetzt gerade sind. Dienstag. Oder? Ja, das müsste ja Dienstag, also Mittwoch jetzt, weil Dienstag war das, wo sie nachts dorthin gerannt ist. Nee, Dienstag ist jetzt, weil wir haben jetzt die Post bekommen. Das meinte ich, also zwischen Sonntag und Dienstag sind mehrere Menschen gestorben anscheinend, so wie sich dieser dieser Beitrag angehört hat, weil er hat sich nicht angehört, als wäre es nur einer gewesen. Es wären mehrere gewesen und alle von dieser Company. Like the old days when a wayward 26-year-old is at the bottom of the list we need to worry about. This is how we find a common ground. We may not agree on a lot of things. We may see things the way the other does, but the give and take is something we've learned to get used to over the years. Whenever it's like this, confidence in him is the least I can offer as thanks.
Really? Thanks for this, Ash.
I'll let you know what happened afterwards, I promise. I'll call you later. You have a good day. Bye.
I admit the way he puts it isn't comforting enough. He can be blunt like that. So many unknown variables, so many words left unsaid. I wish he'd simply lay them out all in the open, because like this, I'm more inclined to think there's an exaggeration on the other's part. Ich wollte noch gucken, wie sich der... Ja genau, wir haben echt wieder Plus bekommen. Yes! If it's from Zachary or Ashton, I don't know. In the end... all I can do is wait, go about my day and hope for the best. Before leaving, I spare Isabella's room one last glance, disturbingly quiet now without her in it. I'll get answers from her later. For now, macht sie den Fernseher auch aus? For now, my concerns are best left here. The rest of the day slips away in a blur. Despite my best efforts in keeping this morning's events from surfacing in my mind, it sticks. In a way, everything today simply feels like a reminder. Every conversation, regardless of how casual, every topic, no matter how mundane it seems. I blame the news entirely for it. Recent happenings brought quite a few interesting stories to everyone's attention, mostly superstitious talk of death. And when locals talk about death here, anyone can sure as hell count on someone bringing up the mansion Isabella sold not a few weeks ago. Not a few weeks ago? Mädchen, das ist eine Woche her. Oder so. Da war das Open House, war Freitag. Hier, und da hat Marianne schon die Pläne abgeholt. Samstags. Also kann es ja nicht ein paar Wochen her sein. Das ist ein paar Tage her. Wir haben Dienstag. Wir haben immer noch Dienstag. Wir haben Dienstag. Now, habe ich das andere gelesen? Even my own students won't stop yapping about it. I think it's even worse than when it was put back up in the market. Now there are more stories. If this is the world reminding me of what matters, or simply because the atmosphere around this time of the year calls for it, I'd rather take the latter. At least then, I can be sure people will forget about it in favor of another set of holidays after. Nevertheless, and this may be a painful thing to admit, but listening to them is a pleasant distraction while waiting for Ashton's call. I hope he didn't forget. The school days about to end soon.
No, that's got nothing with what I heard.
You always
Der
hear
klang gerade sehr
stuff.
böse.
I'm not sure if half of them's even real.
No, really. Rowan knows about it. He used to be in the same class with them.
I can hear you from back here, you know.
Whatever, Rowan. Anyway, the story goes like this. There were 3 of them. They entered the mansion on a dare, and they were all never seen again. No one knows what happened to them. Up to this day. Scary shit, man.
Cock and bull story. Calling it now.
No, you don't get it. Why don't you ask Miss Gales then? Better yet, why don't you go inside the place? I'm betting my allowance you can't do it.
Their talk immediately halts when I look up. All of them suddenly pretending to be engrossed in their current activity. Still, a word to put a stopper to this nonsense is needed. Creativity and imagination fostered by these stories is one thing, but reckless ideas should be corrected before anything potentially tragic comes from it.
Back to your worksheets, everyone. And I don't want to hear any talk of dares or going inside that mansion. It's private property now. You'd all better stay away from it before...
At the noise, the whole lot of them go silent. You can almost hear a pin drop. The look on their faces would have made for a funny picture, but that's irrelevant at the moment. If that is a student loitering around, someone's going to be in trouble.
I'll be back. If you're done, you can leave your worksheets on my desk. Keep the noise to a minimum while I'm gone, okay?
I can sense their eyes on me as I walk out the door. A muted kind of anticipation. A bit unnerving, but it's far more agreeable than the feeling of being watched I've been enduring these past few days. Class is still in session for most of the rooms. In a few hours, once the final bell rings, however, this place will once again be filled with busy chatter and footballs and an everyday cycle in itself. But for the moment, I let the silence guide me, my ears focusing on whatever sounds there are or there will be, searching for the distinct clanging of metal. A good minute passes, and for the portion of it, only my steps echoes through the halls. Wer hat denn dann da geklopft gerade? And another. I'm about to turn around when the sound of it halts my footsteps. It's a little muffled and infrequent, but grows louder after each interval. Ist jemand im Spind eingesperrt? With the hallway devoid of people, if I don't put a stop to it soon, it'll start to disturb the other classes still going on. Looking for it doesn't take long. All I do is follow the racket, and shortly I'm standing in front of a nondescript row of unoccupied lockers. And from inside one of them, sitting in the middle, comes the noise, annoyingly disruptive, now that I'm facing it. Like someone's pounding on the metal door from the inside, hoping to get out. Leaning forward, I tried to get a glimpse through the horizontal slits of whatever's causing it. But in this light, only darkness greets me and another round of clanging. Louder than previous one. More desperate. I've heard stories before from other schools, from a few colleagues who had to deal with it once or twice, although personally I've never encountered one myself, and I can only thank the heavens I haven't yet. But
If this is another kid some other student stuffed in a locker.
with a huff, I straighten up and study it briefly from a frown. Without delay, I reach for its handle and at once it stops, immediately replaced by a muffled sound of a mobile phone ringing. I give the door a few raps before taking my attention away. A second, another. When nothing or no one responds, I finally avert my eyes and I pull out my mobile. Ashton's voice greets me from the other end of the line, oddly cheerful in light of this morning's matters. Or maybe because I'm just expecting some grave or serious news from him. Instead, I get this.
Hey, Becca.
Well, you sound happy.
I do? My voice still sounds the same to me.
There are only two things I know of that could be the reason for that tone. Sweets or he's gotten a good lead in his case. Lead, nicht lead. From the sound of it, I'm going to assume it's the former, since lately the case is all that's running inside his head. If there's ever a third one, I've never heard of it yet. It can only be one of the two.
Ignore that. How's Isabella?
Drove her home a few minutes ago. I think she's sleeping now. Sorry this took a while. Z-Man gave us the puppy eyes after we tried to leave. Had some food prepared for us, apparently. We didn't have the heart to say no.
That's all right. Is she okay now?
I'm not really sure. She didn't say anything to Zach, but she mentioned a plan to take a few days off from work. It was a passing comment before I left her, so I didn't get to ask.
Must be because of Rose's death.
Could be. It doesn't seem like it from Zach's story, though. He said she was shaking when she got there.
Shaking?
The words triggers a memory. The word, nicht words. From 3 days ago, on the way home from her little treat after she sold the mansion, I didn't think much of it at the time, but I won't lie, it scared me. The terrified look on her face, how she sounded when she suddenly screamed.
Becca?
Yeah, I just remembered something. Sorry, don't mind me.
Look, if you can talk to her, get the story out of her. That would be great. She wouldn't talk to Zach or me even when I tried. Maybe she'll speak up if it's you?
I'll give it a go, but I can't promise anything, okay? You know how stubborn she can get. But thanks for letting me know about this. If you want, I can get you that ice cream thing you mentioned tonight. As thanks. Just as thanks for all the trouble I've caused today.
Believe me, I'd love to take you up on that offer, but I've got something on my schedule this evening. Maybe some other time? Thanks a lot, Becca.
Sagt scared. There's a short pause before he cuts the call from his end, and once again I'm alone with my thoughts. But rather than answers, all I got from it are questions, more of them, one on top the other. As if the world isn't planning to give me a break anytime soon. But that's the problem I'll tackle later. Right now, I've got students who need to be taught follies of eavesdropping. If the slightly opened door and there's smothered laughter from inside is an indication.
All right, enough eavesdropping. All of you, back to your seats.
Is that your boyfriend, Miss Scales?
None of your business.
He totally is.
A quick scuffle follows that comment. If there's a retort prepared at the tip of my tongue, I drop every pretense of letting it loose on them. There's no use arguing with teenagers sometimes, boisterous as they all are. They're still my kids, though. Rough around the edges, maybe, but still my kids. Shaking my head, I head back to my classroom with a smile, but not before taking a glance at the locker again. It hasn't made a sound since.
Must be the wind.
Der Wind, genau. So without another look, I leave it alone. Ja, war klar. Jetzt ist der 25. Oktober. Immer noch. So, und Schluss für mich. Optionen. Kann ich speichern? Ich konnte speichern. Hier. Speichern. Okay, warte. Ich weiß gar nicht, woher weiß ich denn, dass es funktioniert hat mit dem Ding. Naja, ich mach's einfach gleich selber aus. Bist du live, Ise? Wahrscheinlich nicht. Nee, du Sau. Naja, dann gute Nacht, schlaf gut. Bin enttäuscht von dir, dass du nicht live bist. Ah, okay. Na gut, dann gute Besserung. Schlaf gut. Bis morgen. Schlaft gut. Ciao, Gammler, falls du noch zusiehst. Bis dann.